Hello, and welcome everybody to another beautiful day here at Live at the Waterhole. And we are excited to be starting off the show today, thanks to Africam here at Vic Falls Safari Lodge in Zimbabwe. My name is Amy, and I will be with you for the show today. So I am looking forward to seeing something new, I must say. And I believe this is a special event that happens every day here at Vic Falls Safari Lodge, where the vultures all arrive and they are fed some of the meat scraps and bones and things like that from the lodge. And it's part of an initiative to help feed these vultures and save them as they are so highly endangered. If you would like to say hello to me, you are more than welcome to do so. This is a live and interactive show, and I would love to hear from you all at home. So please do make sure that if you have any comments, any questions, that you can send them through. There we go. The food is arriving. And you can join the conversation on X using the hashtag WildEarth. Otherwise, if you would like to send through your comments and your questions, you can do so on the website or through the WildEarth app as well. Wow, feeding frenzy. There are also a few marabou stalks in between the vultures here. All right, well, we are going to try and sort out the audio here at Vic Falls, but for now, let's head over to Stony Point. And now we are in the beautiful Western Cape of South Africa, here in Betty's Bay. And how beautiful! What a different scene to that of what we just saw as well. But beautiful nonetheless. You can see those beautiful mountains as well. And Betty's Bay is near Cape Town, a little bit further down along the coast towards sort of the Garden Route side. So not up the west coast, but rather more south and east from there. The beautiful ocean that we're looking at is the Atlantic, and the cold Benguela current flows along this sort of side of the ocean until it meets at Agulhas, which isn't too far from Betty's Bay, a little bit further on at Cape Agulhas, where the two currents meet, the southernmost tip of Africa. And so due to that colder water, we have a very different sort of ocean here. We have a lot of kelp that you can see there in the water, and also meaning that we get to see some different bird life, including some little penguins, which are also around in the area. And there they are. One of the famous places you can visit if you ever do visit Cape Town is Boulders Bay, which is a little bit closer to Cape Town, west from here. And this is another bay where these little guys also hang out. So very different from the vultures we were looking at. but still a bird. Alright, well, it is interesting to see. For the most part, the sun is shining, but let's have a look at what the weather is doing across all our locations. Well, sunny but cool here, only 23 degrees Celsius in Betty's Bay. There are two little penguins grooming each other there, which was very sweet. Now, I can't say that I am a penguin expert, but I do believe these are the African penguin, and it's the species that we get to see in South Africa. And I remember when I first found out that you could see penguins in South Africa, I couldn't believe it. I usually associate penguins, or I used to, very much with Antarctica or the very, very snowy, icy places. But indeed, these little guys are perfectly adapted to live where they do. And the colder water this side is why we don't find them further along the east coast. And that also includes things like seals as well. There's a colony out in the Atlantic Ocean just off Cape Town. Alright, well, I believe we are going to head back up to Zimbabwe and catch up with those vultures. Now, there would be a few different species that we could expect to see of these vultures. For the most part, the most common being the white-backed. But in between, I'll just have to look to see. There's definitely should be some hooded vultures, which are a little bit smaller in size, more petite. White-backed, and then also possibly white-headed and lappet-faced as well, which are very, very large. But it is amazing how quickly these birds can devour carcasses, bones, meat, that sort of thing. Fuller, so good to hear from you. Thank you for saying hello. You say morning, Amy. Betty's Bay is gorgeous, but the vultures were phenomenal. Aren't they just incredible? I do find vultures, whether it's a situation like this or at a carcass, quite entertaining. They can be very funny as well, very possessive over their chunk of whatever it is they're trying to eat. Jan, you think this is cool? Me too. It is very, very, very cool. And not too far from where these vultures are, there is a waterhole. And so I might see one or two decide to clean up at the water or have a drink after feeding. often vultures will do that. So when we often see them at the waterhole is after they've been in quite a messy situation and they come down to clean themselves up at the water. This, of course, there wasn't too much blood and sort of guts and things like that, so we may not see them do it, but they may just need a drink of water. PCS, they are eating something, so you maybe just missed the explanation right in the beginning. We actually saw one of the rangers come out and give them some of the scraps of meat and bone and things like that that come from Victoria Falls Safari Lodge, and it's part of the initiative to help these endangered birds or highly endangered birds, and it's a feeding program they have to sort of use the waste from the kitchen so that these birds can feed on that. And although that's not necessarily normal practice when we talk about the bush, when it comes to these particular vultures and things like that, it's understandable to help them food-wise and make sure that they are successful in their breeding so we can increase their numbers. But now that the food is finished, we will slowly but surely see them moving off, and there'll be less and less and less of them around. Zim, you are saying good afternoon. How long have the vultures had the feeding program in place? I am not exactly sure as to when it began, Zim. Um, I will try and see if we can get an answer for you exactly. But I think just by the way that the vultures sort of are expecting it in a way. It happens every day at 1 p.m. It has been going on for a while, and it's something that is definitely not something that's recently been implemented. So I think maybe a few years already that they've been doing this, I think. But I will try and find out if there's an exact answer to that, Zim. Fuller, yes, I actually just answered your question as to how regularly they fed. It's every day at 1 p.m. They bring out the scraps. So it's actually something that they offer here at the lodge for guests to be able to come down and watch them a little bit closer up to see them feeding. The vultures all come down, and like I mentioned earlier, you can get multiple different species arriving. So the white-backed as well as the hooded are the ones that I can see most of here, but I'm sure they can also spot white-headed and lappet-faced vultures as well. Victor, hello. Thank you so much for your question. You want to know how important are vultures in the ecosystem? Victor, they are vital. They are such an important part of what we refer to as a food web. Um, they are indeed scavengers. They're also part of keeping the bush clean. If you think about how much they actually clean up what the scraps and leftovers are. Maybe parts and things that other animals wouldn't be able to eat or digest or even be able to get to. You know, their beaks are so well adapted, specifically the hooded vulture. Such a small, slender, sharp beak, but their little head can really fit into all the nooks and crannies of the bones. And then you've got the bigger, like white-backed or even lappet face that have a really heavy set bill, and that can crack bones and eat bits and shards and things like that, which other birds or other scavenging birds wouldn't eat. So they are so important, Victor, and it's part of why this feeding scheme is here. Unfortunately, vultures are carry some negative cultural beliefs with them, and it's understandable with them sort of, first of all, I guess, not being the most attractive in appearance and being a little bit scary looking, also associated very much with death. The vultures are circling, they eat carrion, which is basically dead organic material. And it's not exactly a nice thing that us as humans like to associate with. And because of that, they often are poisoned or hunted, or there's different, associations with it. But they falling victim to this across Africa. And so, what the aim of this feeding program is to supply them with a safe, to give them a safe supply of food, that they know for sure that they're not going to be poisoned or anything like that. And then hopefully that will lead to healthier birds, to more successful breeding, and an increase in their numbers. All species of these vultures are endangered, varying from highly to critical. And so this is part of why this feeding happens here at Victoria Falls Safari Lodge. Darkmane Lover, good to hear from you. I'm so happy to be here and hosting the Live at the Waterhole show. Thanks for having me. You also wanted to know if humans are allowed to feed wildlife in the private reserves. No, Darkmane Lover, it's not something that is allowed in a private capacity. This is obviously a scheme introduced and approved by the reserve and within the lodge, and it's something that has all the conservation boxes ticked in that way. And of course it's managed by a professional. It's not just an individual throwing out their leftover sandwich to the vultures or something like that. It is so important that us as humans don't feed animals. It is so tempting, especially if you are in a reserve and you just want to put out your little crumbs, whether it's for birds or for monkeys or baboons or whatever, because it means that the animals come closer to you. But unfortunately, what that does is it attracts the animals to, first of all, human areas, which can bring disease, for example, but also it means that they become reliant on people to feed them and not act or behave naturally in the way that they should be looking for their own food or hunting or going to find their own food out in the bush, and not relying on coming to camps or lodges or where humans are camping or whatever to find the food that they need. So it's quite a sort of, there's lots of aspects to it, but it is important that by feeding or intervening, providing food for animals that shouldn't naturally be occurring in a particular place for them, we're actually doing more harm than good for them. Just to add on to that one final thought, we must remember that if there is anything altercation that happens between the animal and a human, in the end it's the animal that will pay that price. For example, a monkey biting you, or for example, sometimes hyenas or leopards can walk through camps and things like that, and if there's anything that happens, it's that animal that will have to be put down. So that's why it's also important to not feed them or provide food to them.
This is On Safari. Now remember, this is live and interactive, so we'd love to hear from you.
To be having these incredible experiences in this wild underwater forest.
It was just one of those things which I don't think I'll ever see again in my life.
Thanks for joining us on our Sunrise Safari.
Well, there are a few clouds in the sky today here in Kimberley, and we are just checking in on the water birds around here at Comfortsum that always spoil us with so much going on. And there's plenty of red-knobbed coots around at the moment. I think an Egyptian goose or two, and some flamingos dotted around as well. I think there's a pair of South African shell ducks now coming across. I can just see that very white head that is quite unique to that particular bird. Peace, you'd like to know if this is a huge pond, lake, or the ocean? No, so it's not the ocean. This particular area of South Africa is inland, so completely landlocked, and this is a very large, I suppose, dam or lake would be the most appropriate name for this body of water. And it is massive. We are just sort of on the far, I think, western side of it, where it gets a little bit more shallow. And the water birds and waders love to be in this particular spot, like a little bit of a beach type of area. But the full dam extends far off to the right hand side as well. Very large body of water here in the central part of South Africa. So completely fresh water. Zadar, you say that if you could be an animal for a day, it would be a vulture, so that you can soar on the thermals. Oh, you actually, it's such a good point, Zadar. And I do agree with you. I think that, for those of you who may not know, one of the incredible things that vultures do is once it starts heating up in the daytime, they actually use columns of warm air that's rising to help them gain extremely high height in the sky. And that's to do with conserving energy. And it means that they don't have to flap their wings so hard and they can just soar with the rising thermals. And if you ever see one or a group of them start off quite low and they find a thermal, it's incredible how within the time, a few minutes that you spend watching them, they gain thousands of meters up into the sky. And it's incredible to see that happen. So you're right, Zadar, if I could experience that for just a day, it would be amazing. I don't know if I would be okay. I think I would start freaking out the minute I start getting so high. But it would be an incredible experience. All right, we are going to head over to Juma and check out what's happening over there. Well, we have arrived back here with these two Egyptian geese, and I think there are some little ones in between there. Something moved that looked very fluffy. Now the weather today here in this area is actually drizzling where I am, and oh, there we go, there's a little one. and so the rain is sort of on and off. But what a pleasure to have a cooler day in the Lowveld today. Oh, I just actually earlier I went outside and just stood in this light drizzle and enjoyed cooling down. I believe tomorrow is going to be back up to about 40 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. So we're enjoying the cool weather while it's here today. And I was saying yesterday that it felt like it was building towards some rain. It was quite sticky and humid, and you could feel that sort of scent of build up in the air as well. And I'm so glad that eventually it wasn't really a storm. I didn't see any lightning or hear any thunder, but we did get a few mils of rain this morning, which has been wonderful, just cooling everything down again. Hopefully that little one gets up for us. You can see how cute it is. There's a little face now. It was just busy cleaning itself off there. So in the early hours of this morning, about 4 a.m., we saw on this camera that there was a leopard around, and I believe it was ribs, and he headed up just behind sort of where these geese are. So we're keeping our eyes out, everyone, and as I've explained previously, when it is cooler like this, it's a good day to perhaps see predators moving more so than when it is extremely hot. So who knows, we may have a guest appearance pop by in the next hour and a half or so. That would be amazing. It would be definitely my first leopard to see on the Waterhole show. Darkmane Lover, you'd like to know how often do you see any live kills at any of the Waterhole scene here or on the show itself? Darkmane, not very often, of course. I mean, that in itself, to see a live kill is rare, to say the least, and it is all about being lucky at the right place at the right time. But I suppose like fishing, the more your line is in the water, the more chance you have of catching the fish. So the more you're out here, the more you watch the show, the more you're in the bush, the more luck you seem to have. I have seen on the show or at these locations, I think there have been quite a few kills and things seen, in terms of a 24-hour period. But with when we've been live, there's been one case of a wild dog kill. I actually wasn't presenting at that time. It was just after I had finished, but I stayed on and I was watching, and it happened with the wild dogs and an impala around, I think it was Rosie's Pan, which was incredible to see. There's a very pale little bird sitting there on the tree. I'm not sure if it's the lighting. It looks very much like a dove. So Darkmane, that was very, very cool to see that. That was incredible and sort of unbelievable. I also believe there was seen, also not live though, a martial eagle take a rock monitor at one of the pans that was on camera, which is amazing. And then in terms of other types of kills, we've seen plenty of herons catch fish and frogs and things like that live, which is very, very cool. And so, yeah, there are every now and again something special that we do get to see. But it is not very often, as with a game drive, it's not very often that you actually get to see a kill happen.
Out in the wild, life moves fast. To capture the action, you've got to be in the right spot at the wrong time. Now, incredible animal behavior, selected from amazing amateur and professional footage, to reveal the secret lives of animals in motion. This is raw nature, caught in the act.
Oh, there's an impala. That little guy better be careful where it goes. That is the sort of the area where the leopard was seen moving off. It looks, I don't know, slightly lost maybe. But that's the exact sort of situation that if there was a leopard hunting would be perfect in place. A lone impala sort of maybe separated from the herd a bit. Well, last night we have some very interesting footage that came through from Oldonyo in Kenya, and we are going to take a look at what happened to come by for a drink last night. How incredible is this, everyone? Now, one of the amazing things that we've added to the show is being able to show you footage that's collected within 24 hours or so of what happens at some of the waterholes when we are not live. And last night we had, it looks like, a mother cheetah and 3 cubs, quite big cubs already, but they'll be her 3 offspring that had come down for a drink at Oldonyo. Now, it's not actually a place where I've seen any predators, to be fair, but at night everything is different, very different sort of surroundings, and a lot cooler temperatures, of course. You can see that's mom there. She's a lot bigger, and those are her 3 cubs. Very skittish, aware that they're also vulnerable out in the open. Something like a lion or maybe other male cheetahs, a coalition that are patrolling a territory. They'll have no second guesses on attacking these cheetah or maybe even killing them. So they're also vulnerable cats. They are a lot more, they have adapted to be lean and fast and not so much strength and power. And so in comparison to a lion or a leopard, they're a lot more delicate. But how cool to be able to have seen them like that come down for their drink, everybody. And from last night's activities all the way through to today, now live here in Namibia, we have a giraffe that's come down at Okakuyo. Well, everyone, if you do hear any people talking in the background here, and there are sometimes guests which are at the lodge, and so we sometimes pick up them chatting as they also head out to the deck to have a look at the animals at the waterhole. Joanne, you say cheetahs are your favorite. They are so endangered. Yes, indeed, Joanne. Cheetahs are beautiful cats. They're so unique, so elegant. So just the way their body lean and athletic, I suppose, would be the word I would use to describe them. Everything perfectly put together to give them maximum speed. And if you ever are able to look up a slow motion video of them running, you'll see it's almost like a hare or a rabbit, the way they use those incredibly long back legs that come right up in front of their front legs, and they do sort of this incredible running motion. And so they are just beautiful, beautiful cats, and yes, also endangered. And there's a lot to be said about trying to improve the genetic diversity within cheetah, with them being the only one within their taxonomical sort of grouping. They have their own unique species, which they are, and they don't have any other sort of cousins or things like that within the same group. For example, leopards, lions, tigers, jaguars, they're all part of the big cats, whereas the cheetah sits all on its own. And so it's unfortunately, with so few left out in the wild, the genetic diversity within one area is what's threatening the population. And so there's a lot of conservation efforts to actually move around cheetahs from different reserves so that different males and females will mate, and then their offspring will have a new genetic code that's very different from the others, which then can mix more, so limits the amount of inbreeding, which is fine within a few generations, but it can actually begin to cause problems within the animal kingdom later on.
If you are a driven nature enthusiast with a background in communications, then this message is for you. WildEarth is calling for volunteers to moderate our web and social media chat platforms during our live broadcasts. Do you keep up with the latest trends on social media? Do you have quick fingers and a sharp eye? Then we're looking for you. To apply, email your CV to us at jobs@wildearth.tv. Join the WildEarth team today. WildEarth, connecting with nature.
Sarah, hello to you. You say you've been loving the new places that have been shown. Me as well. We have been lucky to be able to see a few new locations that have been added thanks to Africam. And speaking of maybe not a new one, but definitely a favorite, let's head up to Oldonyo Lodge. On the beautiful, familiar scene here in Kenya with these giraffes feeding. Sorry, not feeding, drinking. And there seems to be, I think, an elephant under the tree on the right-hand side. It's amazing to think that just last night, in the cover of darkness, those 4 cheetahs came past in this very spot. And now we've got a tower of giraffes here, as well as an elephant resting in the shade. I think he was probably at the water a little bit earlier. You can see those darker spots on his face there. Maybe a little bit of splashing was done, and now it's gone off to rest there in the shade. So I've just asked if we can check in the tree here next to this Ellie. I saw a little bit of a sort of a white spot And I just want to make sure that it's not a bird of prey sitting just a little bit further to the right. There's a dead tree sort of in front, and then there was quite a light patch from a distance may have looked like a bird of prey, but we just want to be sure. So it's a bit further more to the right from there. I think if you keep going slowly, we may be able to see the particular spot that I'm talking about. So a little even more to the right. And then this is the tree that I'm talking about. There we go. I actually just saw what I was looking at. So if everyone can see, it is in fact just a log with the sunlight on it, but at a distance it looks like a very white bird. And I thought it was maybe a juvenile martial eagle, which would have been very, very cool. But now that we've zoomed in a bit, I can see it's just the sun hitting the back of that tree. It looked like it had the crest and everything, but thank you, Kulu. Thank you. I'm glad we could check. Darkman lover, you say, wow, this giraffe sighting is beautiful. These giraffes look so healthy and tall, don't they just? They are beautiful animals. And the ones here at Oldova do particularly look in good health. Oh, and there's some young males giving each other a go, doing that act we call necking. So it's how giraffes actually fight with one another. Well, there's a third one on the right. I'm not sure why he's standing there. It's something that takes place between two giraffes at a time. I think this is the first time I've actually seen three males having, well, the one in the middle's trying to hit both the one on the left and it tried to hit the one on the right just now. But there's a significant size difference between these males. So the one on the far left is a lot larger, a lot more mature. So there really wouldn't be any competition in terms of mating rights with regards to size and strength. But the younger ones do need to get their practice in. And it would be silly of that smaller one to push the big one too far, as it will get seriously injured if it comes down to that. Dark Main Lover, it is just a beautiful scene always at Old Donyo, with the sky, the clouds, the colors of the trees, as well as the bit of brown around the waterhole. It's a magical African scene, and we are so lucky to be able to sit here and watch what happens at this particular waterhole in such a beautiful place. Tracy, I'm so glad that you're enjoying the show and that you love what you're seeing. Me too. Actually, seems like this whole group of giraffes here is actually all males. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere close by there's a female or a group of females, and there's some chemical pheromones that are being emitted that are setting these males off. All right, well, we have had an awesome time here at Old Donyon. Who knows, we may be back, but for now, let's head over to Juma. Where you can actually see the little bits of drops of rain, and there's a very cozy Cape turtle dove that has just hopped down, but you can see how it fluffs up its feathers like that. And often we see birds do that when it is cooler weather, raining, just trying to trap in as much of that warm air as possible. when I see birds doing that, it makes me feel like I should be on the couch with a blanket and some hot chocolate or something. They look so cozy.
Better is more than a word to us. It's a commitment to conserve our nation's precious landscapes, oceans, and wildlife. It's more sustainable fishing and farming practices, jobs and prosperity for our communities, and access to clean drinking water for all. Better is believing that together we can make a difference. For nature and for you.
Now it's continuing to drizzle here in the low felt, everyone, at Juma. And earlier when we could see the water, you could see the little droplets falling. And like I say, I am loving it. It has been so pleasant to enjoy a bit of rain. And it's not stormy, it's not pouring. It's just this consistent sort of water falling from the sky, which is amazing. And it's actually absolutely wonderful. Probably not the best safari weather in the world. But when it has been so hot day after day, it is a welcomed relief. Well, everyone, while the rain continues here at Juma, let's try head back to Kenya. Well, the giraffes are still here. These males having a go at one another. It's so interesting when they neck like this. They sort of, their backsides are sort of pasted together. They don't move away from one another and try and hit each other with their horns.
Experience captivating wildlife documentaries showcasing incredible animal behavior for free by visiting lionmountain.tv or downloading the app, accessible on both Apple and Android platforms.
Well, everyone, not only do we have amazing things here to look at in the day, but last night we also had another special little visitor at Oldonyo. Now, for those of you who may be wondering what exactly this is, it is a type of feline. Sorry if you were thinking that, well done. But it is actually a caracal. And the first thing that tells me it's a caracal is those little tufts on the ear like that. And there's really nothing else that we get out here that looks like a caracal. Very, very rare cat to see. Very much moves around at night and also very secretive, solitary. and has a unique face as well. Not so much like some of the other cats, but almost looks like the cats that you see associated with Egypt or that sort of area. Very sort of compact face with big eye sockets. But how cool was that? Caracal that came down for a drink here at Old Doniel last night. I see the elephant's also on the move. I was thinking that maybe he was going to come out. He did turn around there and start flapping his ears pretty quickly, which is not what they do when they're resting, but rather when they are on the move. So I think he may hopefully come for another drink. What a treat that would be. Christine, while we watch this Ellie Comfort's drink, you want to know if Caracal and black-footed cats are more or less the same size. So no, Christine. Caracals are much larger. They are quite a lot bigger than the black-footed cat. Black-footed cat, I'd more or less say it's the size of an African wildcat. That's more similar. They weigh about 2 kgs or so, whereas a caracal goes all the way up to about 9 kilograms. Now, it was mentioned earlier, and Cecile, you're also asking about it. There was a striped hyena that was seen here on Sunday evening with Africam. And you're wondering if that footage is still available. Now, that actually is going to be shown on the show that's coming up directly after this at 3 p.m. So stay tuned for that, Cecile, and we'll be showing that footage of that striped hyena here that was seen on Sunday night. So very, very exciting stuff. Dark Main Lover, you say you were about to say Caracal. Thank you, Amy. Wow. These cats are so elusive, and it's so cool to see that beautiful caracal. It is, isn't it? And we're so lucky that we get to share those little clips with you from what happens during the night or during the daytime when we aren't live. And special to see a caracal like that. I've seen caracal a handful of times. And the one time I was very, very lucky coming back after an afternoon safari in the evening, and I saw a female with 3 kittens cross the road and head off into the bush, which was absolutely amazing, but very, very rare to see.
Experience captivating wildlife documentaries showcasing incredible animal behavior for free by visiting lionmountain.tv or downloading the app, accessible on both Apple and Android platforms.
Well, now that elephant bull has moved away, we have started to do some birding, everybody. And there are these beautiful, superb starlings that have come down for a drink. Oh, and there is a straw-tailed wider as well that's just landed in the background there. Also coming down for a drink. Have a look at how beautiful that tail is of that bird. Oh, it just flew away because the dove tried to land. It might come back. It didn't actually get any water, so I think it may actually come back. There's also something else. Is that a lizard on this side of the water hole, sort of on the bottom left, sitting on top of the rock? Tadio is going to try and get us a closer look, but it just ran away. That is still there now, just by the green, but does look lizard-like. We sometimes see the Kenyan rockagama here, but this looks a lot smaller and a lot more plainer in color. It is a little bit tricky to try and focus on something so small. Definitely a type of lizard or skink even. Oh, and there in the background we actually have a beautiful emerald spotted wood dove. Oh, it just ran away. Namakwa dove as well coming to drink. So plenty of action here at Aldonyo all of a sudden. Apparently this is sort of the best focus we can get on this little reptile. But like I say, I can't say exactly which species it is, but it's definitely part of the lizard family. All right, everyone. Well, we have one more little clip to show you from last night of a visitor that came down to a waterhole. So let's have a look at that and see what arrived. Now, this is in the Kruger National Park at Shalati at Skukuza, and there is a cane rat. Now, I'm not sure if everyone is too familiar with what that is, but it is a rat nonetheless, and it is very much a nocturnal animal and something that I actually haven't seen such a good view of ever. I've seen their tracks before when doing track and sign training and having a look at their very unique footprints in the sand. But this is what they are. They're very large And I've seen them running through the grass or hopping through the grass sometimes. But that is indeed a cane rat. And just like that, it disappears. But often the popular prey species for some of the smaller cats, even like a caracal that we saw earlier, even a serval as well, they would prey on things like cane rats at night. Pete, thank you so much for your message. I do hope that everyone else agrees with you and is enjoying the nighttime footage that we've added to the show. I think it's just great to see, like you say, some of the more rarer and shyer animals that are highly unlikely to see in the daytime out in the open. But in the cover of darkness, they are a lot more comfortable. And you say that we are praying for more rain, and you are praying for it to stop. And you hope that we get some more here. Thanks, Pete. We appreciate that. Ross, you want to know what the rat tracks look like? I'm going to try and describe it to you the best way I can. But they're very small, and they sort of two little stripes in the ground. They don't look like very much at all, to be honest with you. But they've got this sort of like little, almost like two little strokes in the sand. And depending on the substrate, so depending on the soil which they land on, you can get more or less definition. When the ones that I have seen, I suppose the most often has been when crossing riverbeds, dry riverbeds. And so you sort of get this clear mark in the sand of a certain size and length and depth and that sort of thing, which is clearly from the cane rat. When it is in sort of a more sandy, finer sandy soil that can take more definition, you might actually get a little bit more of the foot detail in those sort of two little strips and a bit of a back pad or impression. And then, of course, the nails at the tip of the toe as well that can form an imprint. But it's quite very sort of narrow and sort of a thin strip. But you can look it up or look at a field guide on mammal footprints or tracks, which may be able to help you. But it is one of the rarer tracks to try and find, just because, they sort of, it can easily get disturbed because it is small and not something that we commonly can see. So very, very cool if you do manage to ever see tracks of a cane rat.
We've got a refreshing splash of entertainment this March. Africam is surfacing with a new show. Join us every morning and submerge yourself in nature's ambience. Watch it live and transport yourself to the finest watering holes across Africa. WildEarth, connecting with nature.
Well, I have been hoping that this giraffe decides to come back. It's been very tentatively approaching the water. And it tries to drink something and then it moves off again. Oh, there we go. Hopefully it gets in a little bit more than before. Cheetahs and other animals, so good to hear from you again. And you say that this is such a lovely giraffe. Isn't he just beautiful? We've actually had quite a few of these males here this afternoon, and this one seems to be the last one standing at this point. Others all finished off their drinks and moved away, but he seemed to be a little bit behind the other ones. Well, a friend has decided to also come get some water here. And what a perfect way to end off a wonderful show today, everybody. A reminder that straight after this at 3 p.m. we're going to be heading into on safari before we go into your very own live safari. That will be at 3:30. Leo, you say thank you for another relaxing show. It is a pleasure, Leo. I'm so glad you found it relaxing. And we had plenty of animals and action and entertainment today with lots of different species. And it was really lovely to spend the time with you all. And thank you so much to everyone who sent through your comments and your questions. It's wonderful to chat to you all and discuss things. And the vultures today were definitely a highlight for me. And then I always love to see an elephant come and drink here at El Doño. And of course, sharing with you some of that nighttime footage and the special little features that we get to share now about the little visitors we have during the night, which is lovely. So everyone, it is time for me to say goodbye, but we will be back with you tomorrow for the show at 1 p.m. Central African time, and I will be back with you then, so I'm already looking forward to that. But have a wonderful afternoon, evening, or morning ahead for all of you watching, and I will chat to you all again tomorrow.